I'm going to be honest, a business card with 9 pictures of a rowboat on it doesn't look particularly good to me, so I'm just going to select all of these images right here, move them to the trash can, increase the size of this one image right here, and I want to show you one problem that you might run into. You'll notice that instead of going to Edit Free Transform, that got annoying. Instead, I am just hitting Control T in order to decrease the size of it. Now, if I were to decrease the size to this, and let's zoom in on that right there. Control plus to zoom in, spacebar. You'll notice that it doesn't have a lot of pixel information. But if I hit Control T and I increase it like this, all of that information that we lost is back in there. So I'm going to decrease the size again. Now, what you might see happen is you decrease the size, and when you increase it, it gets blurry. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to drag this lake in. Let's just open it up in Photoshop. Open it up in Photoshop. I'm not going to worry about that warning. You'll notice that instead of it opening up here, because I dragged it to the, the palette down there, whatever these are called, it opened up in its own tab. In order to move it from one tab to another, I'm just going to drag this out, and I'm going to click and drag it over here. Yes, I want to proceed. Let's undo that and actually go back to this window. Let's say you have it up here. The other way to do it is just to click and drag it, go to that tab, and that's another way to do it right there. But I find that a little bit more confusing, so either way works. Let's close this tab right here. Now, if I decrease the size of this image, Control T to transform, decrease the size of this right here, and let's zoom in right here, and we can see that we don't have a lot of pixel information. And now I increase the size of it, Control T, and then increase it right there. You'll notice that instead of increasing it and getting it all that information back, we've lost all that information. It was using this tiny bit of information right here in order to tell us what the big version is, which isn't particularly helpful. So why, with this one, are we able to decrease it to a teeny tiny image and then increase it and get everything back? Whereas with this one, we're not able to do that. When we try increasing it, it ends up looking like, well, crap. Here's the reason. The way that we brought this one in and the way that we brought this one in to the image make them two very different layers. Now, look at the layer palette right here. One of them has this tiny little icon on, which is telling us it's a smart object, and the other one doesn't. Now, I'm not going to get into all the differences of what a smart object is and what a smart object isn't, but all you need to know right now is a smart object you can increase and decrease in size and never lose quality, whereas a normal layer or a dumb object, let's just call them a normal layer, doesn't have that ability. If you decrease it in size, you can never get that pixel information back. So I am going to undo a few times until we have two viable layers. There we go. There's one. There's the other. And show you a couple of other things that are different with a smart object and a normal object. Now, in order to do that, I'm going to turn off this one and have it so we just have a normal layer right here. Now, I haven't shown you this yet, but what it is it's the Make a Square tool. It does more than that, but for now, let's call it the Make a Square tool. If I click and drag, I can select a part of an image, and then if I go to the Move tool, I can move whatever is inside of this square to another place that I want. Or let me do undo. I can copy it, I can paste it, and now it creates a new layer of just what's inside of that square right there. So the Make a Square tool is very nice in that way. If I were to go to, here we go, if I were to go to our Smart Object layer and do that same thing, so let's create a square and then use my Move tool and then try to drag it, I'm not able to do it. So this right here is a disadvantage to a smart object layer. You can decrease and increase it in size, but you're not able to do things such as really edit the image around. So for instance, let's take my dumb layer again, just a normal layer. If I were to take this entire bottom half and move it so half of it's on the top, half of it's at the bottom, and then move my text and put it in the middle, I can do that with a normal layer. But with the Smart Object layer, I'm not able to split it in half like that, at least not in any simple way. So that's the difference between a layer that's a Smart Object and a normal layer. All right, so the question that I'm sure you have right now, don't worry about how I'm doing multiple undos at once. It just speeds things up for demonstration. Let's not bog you down with information that you shouldn't need to care about. Now, the thing that I'm sure you're wondering right here is, okay, so why is this one a normal layer and this one is a smart object? The reason for that is if you drag an image directly into the document, I'm going to hit enter, it becomes a smart object. Let's delete that. Or let's bring it to the top of the layer stacking order, and then let's delete it. However, if you drag it into Photoshop, it opens up as its own document, and then you move that document into this palette, it just sets it up as any old layer. So you can switch something from being a smart object to not being a smart object. And the way to do that is by right-clicking and saying convert to smart object. And you can also turn something from being a smart object to being a normal layer. And the way to do that is by right-clicking and saying rasterize layer. But for now, I just wanted you to know the difference between these two things. Essentially, a smart object, you can increase and decrease in size and never lose any information. And a normal layer, you can move things around as you want to your heart's content. And listen, this is just a small showing of the sort of things you can do with the normal layer. But if you decrease it in size, you've lost all of the information. So I just want to make that clear, the difference between a smart object and a normal layer.